Hello, I'm Philip Barnes, Music Director at Third Baptist Church.
I'm Lansin Kimler, pianist.
And I'm Brent Johnson, organist.
The theme for this Sunday's message is concerning Lazarus, the death and then the raising of Lazarus. And so a lot of the music has been chosen with that in mind. You're going to hear as the anthem a spiritual arranged by Robert Tanner, simply called Lazarus. And Lansin, tell us a little about an unusual solo song.
I will be accompanying Margaret Boeckmann on Sergei Rachmaninoff's The Raising of Lazarus.
Tell us a little about the organ piece.
This is a chorale from another Bach chorale, this time aus tiefer Not, out of the depths I call to thee. And it's from the Klavierübung 3 setting, the German organ mass it's sometimes called.
I've asked Lansin to play two American pieces to bookend this service about Lazarus. The first one is by the contemporary composer from the South, Dan Forrest, and what he's done is written an elaboration on a very famous hymn, Channels Only, and we'll feature a little of that later on. And at the end of the service, Lansin will play a piece by Vernon Duke, who started off life in Russia as Vladimir Dekelsky, but became a popular songwriter along with George Gershwin, and he wrote this rather beautiful piece which he called American Arabesque. I praise thee, precious Saviour, that thy love laid hold on me. Thou hast saved and cleansed and filled me, that I might thy channel be. Channels only, blessed Master, but with all thy wondrous power, flowing through us, thou canst use us every day and every hour. In addition to Channels Only, which is our opening hymn, we'll be singing I'm So Glad Jesus Lifted Me, and finally, very famous song, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. So please come and join us at Third Baptist Church for worship this Sunday at 11 o'clock.
One more little bit about the Bach chorale I'm playing on Sunday. We've got a little more time here. The chorale Aus tiefer Not schrie zu dir is not real familiar. It's not in this hymnal. I did find a version in another hymnal, and it sounded like this. This is a harmonization by Austin Lovelace from the 60s. very modal and sounds very old, even though that harmonization is from 63. So I want to talk about Bach's version. Now that's in E minor. Bach puts his in F sharp minor, but the melody is the same. It's 4 parts and the melody's on top, and the melody has been augmented, so it sounds like this. Exactly the same, just longer note values. But in the beginning, that's in the soprano voice. In the beginning, the tenor comes in first, and it starts with the melody exactly the same. Just 4 times as fast. And then the bass comes in too. It's the same melody turned upside down. So when you put them all together, finally get the actual chorale melody. And it'll play a little faster than that on Sunday, I hope. Just wanted you to hear all of that. And then the second phrase comes in. The second phrase is the exact same as what we just played. He starts off the second phrase. Exact same thing. The third phrase, that all repeats just like it does in the chorale, but then the third phrase comes in. And so it starts off essentially the same. It's a little bit different. He changes the notes just a tiny bit. It's the same melody. The bass. Turns it upside down. Over on the next page, we have the next phrase, which we hear in the soprano as. Of course, the accompaniment comes in the alto first. It's the same thing. So he's taking the melody, this chorale, which is not particularly interesting or exciting, and he makes a whole piece out of just those same melodic notes, and then we get the same thing at the end. He's got one melody upside down against the other one starting the correct direction. So that wraps up the whole piece. It's not a real long piece, but there's a whole lot of really interesting things in this one little chorale. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to see you on Sunday.